from Anshe Sfard Bethel Emeth Congregation. It's time to take 10 minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of the counting of the Omer from sadness to joy. If we ask ourselves a question, what is the period of counting of the Omer? Is it a happy time? Is it a sad time? Or something in between? Well, Ramban tells us that really the counting of the Omer period is a happy time. After all, we had the 7-day holiday of Pesach, and just like there's a 7-day holiday of Sukkot, and the 8th day is Simchas Torah, is Shmini Atzeres, so too, Pesach is a 7-day holiday, and its final day is 7 weeks later, Shavuos, also known by the rabbis as Atzeres, parallel to Shmini Atzeres. The days in between are happy days, they're like intermediate days, they're part of the holiday season. We're in the harvest season. It's a one long harvest, joyous season. People are reaping the wheat, they're sharing the wheat. They're leaving payah, they're leaving corners, they're leaving the sheaves for the poor, and therefore it's a joyous time. However, as we know, over time, the Omer period became associated with sadness. First, in the period of the Bar Kokhba period of the Hadrianic persecutions, somehow 24,000 students, 12,000 pairs of students, says the Gemara in Yevamos, died during this period, and it became known as a sad period. During 33 days of this period, the students of Rabbi Akiva perished. But there was some light. The 33rd day, Shimon Bar Yochai was born, a light was born. Shimon Bar Yochai passed away. On the day he passed away, he shared the secrets of the Zohar, and the light began to shine forth again. Lag BaOmer, a happy day within this sad period. Then during the Crusader period, again, it became a very sad period, such that one of the medieval commentators says that, you know what, we shouldn't even take haircuts during the entire period, and very severe period of mourning was instituted during the entire Omer period, not just 33 days, because this was a period where several actions against the Jews during the Crusades took place during this very time of year. So we have the potential of this period to be a happy period. We have the potential to be a sad period. But what about agriculturally? Agriculturally, what are people engaged in at this time? Well, certainly it's a busy time. As the rabbi said to the students, I don't want to see you during Nisan. It's a time of harvest. You're busy. The harvest apparently during Pesach, since we bring the barley harvest, since the Omer is a measure of ground barley, it seems that the Ketzir Seorim, the barley harvest, is first. That's not fully satisfactory. That's just the animal grain. Some people like to eat barley, but the second harvest, the Ketzir HaChitim, that's the second harvest, as we learned from the book of Ruth. First it's the Seorim, first it's the barley harvest, then it's the wheat harvest. The wheat harvest is celebrated by the culmination on Shavuos, where you bring the Shtei Alechem, the 2 loaves of bread from the new grain, from the new wheat. So it's a period of various harvests. And therefore, from an agricultural perspective, we're also a little bit concerned. We had one harvest, how's the other one going to do? The main harvest, the wheat, is not done yet. It's a period of anxiety, hard work, worry, and sleeping out in the granaries, protecting the grain from robbers. So, agriculturally speaking, it also is missing something. Go back to the famous question of the Reb Zrachi Halevi, the Baal HaMaor, in his commentary on the Rif, from about 800 years ago in Provence, in southern France, and he says, why don't we say Shechianu for the counting of the Omer? And he gives an answer. He says that the counting of the Omer does not make me happy, it makes me sad. Because when I realize during this period of history where there's no temple, there's no Beis HaMikdash, and I realize that this Omer doesn't exist. There is no Omer from which I'm counting. There is no waving of the measure of barley. There is no taking of that one handful of that barley wheat, the barley flour, and sprinkling it on the altar. The Kohanim don't get to eat the remains of the sacrifice. So it's a sad time. Whenever I count the Omer, I'm sad. I don't say Shechianu. I don't say that I'm so happy I reached this time. It's a sad time from the perspective that there's no longer a temple, there's no longer the actual offerings of this period of time are not actually to be found. Another element of sadness, another layer added to this period, which again could theoretically be lifted from this period. So we have agricultural angst. We have the commemoration of the fact that the temple is not here. It reminds us acutely of that. We have various historical events that took place during this time, which make it sad. And then all of a sudden comes the modern era, and all of a sudden there's a Yom HaAtzmaut. There's an Israel Independence Day. And some people say, what? During the Omer? How can you play music and dance? And this is a sad time. And perhaps one can invoke something that Rav Schachter said regarding the Megillas Tainis. As my son Tani pointed out in a recent lecture, during the period of the Second Temple, they instituted various holidays. Those holidays have since been canceled, but they were holidays. And Rav Schachter asked, well, what's the nature of these holidays? Why do they institute these holidays? He said, well, during the Second Temple period, there were certain glimpses of the ultimate redemption. Perhaps Hanukkah would represent a restoration of Jewish government. Hanukkah represented the restoration of a pure temple. Hanukkah represented the restoration of Kohanim, who were the good guys. Purim represented the idea that perhaps the temple would be rebuilt. Perhaps the full redemption would come. These holidays mostly were canceled, but these two were preserved. Why? There was a feeling that what happened on Purim was an inauguration of a spiritual revival, which Rav Schachter explains is forever. That spiritual revival is the revival we need for the ultimate redemption. And Hanukkah, why is Hanukkah still there? After all, the temple was destroyed, but there's a feeling that was a dedication, not just of that temple during the Second Temple period, but that was the cornerstone of the ultimate Third Temple. When, during this period of the Omer, a period ostensibly sad, once upon a time, more happy, theoretically a more happy period that has become associated with sadness, all of a sudden, during our own era, all of a sudden, a state is created. Maybe this too, one might suggest, what Santani suggested, perhaps this too is the beginning of an ultimate redemption. Perhaps it's the beginning of the end of the exile, where Jews can have a place where they can return home. And then we have Yom Yerushalayim coming up soon, in Jerusalem Day, where the old city of Jerusalem was recaptured. What is the old city? It's the place that is the outer courtyard of the temple. When you have the beginning of the Jewish capture of the outer courtyard of the temple, it's not the temple itself. We don't control it so much, the Temple Mount, but you begin to control the outer sanctuary. Jews restored to the outer sanctuary. Maybe it's the beginning of some sort of restoration of the temple. And since Rav Schachter explained that holidays can be instituted on the basis of either a restoration of the temple, a refurbishment of the temple, or because there's a sense of the Geula Shlema, the Aschal Zegul, the beginning of redemption, perhaps we can explain these two holidays being instituted in our time, not as full-fledged holidays, but as a sense of celebration of these two ideas, similar to the idea of the holidays of Megillas Tainis, of days when you're not allowed to fast. That ancient list of holidays. These are two holidays that begin to restore this sad period to its ultimate destiny, to be a more happy period where we begin to celebrate the restoration of Jews to their land, the restoration of Jews, a place where Jews can go, the restoration of Jerusalem, the outer courtyard of the Holy Temple. And with this, we can begin to see the glimmerings of light shining forth on this period again, where it will go hopefully from sadness to joy, from a period of great sadness due to various historical events, to a period of great joy due to great, wonderful historical events that have taken place in our own time. Let us hope that this progress from sadness to joy continues, so that one day we can truly have a grand celebration like perhaps the Ramban envisioned, begins on Pesach and it concludes on Shavuos, and that spiritual revival we saw in Hanukkah, that's represented by Shavuos, represented by the growth we're supposed to do during the Omer, will be something to celebrate and look forward to. And God willing, will be all of our days will be sort of a ganz yor freilach, will be joy all the time, every day of the Omer. Thank you for joining us here at the Anshe Sfar Beth Lameth congregation for our discussion of the Omer. Join us each week for discussions of the Parashah, the various upcoming holidays. And thanks to Jason Lefkowitz, our producer. Thank you.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein. To learn more, visit ASBEE.org.